All right, I just finished editing the video for this week, but I promised you guys an update about my health, and so I'm going to jump to that right now. First thing I want to say is I appreciate all the emails and messages that people have sent inquiring about my health. Last Thursday, I went in the hospital and we had a one-day procedure where they did sort of an ultrasound from the esophagus on the back of the heart. They did electrical tests on the inside of the heart, and then they ablated or burned the inside of one of the atriums to stop a bad electrical circuit from going around. And I really think that was successful. We haven't had a follow-up appointment or other tests yet, but so far I feel a lot better. It's really incredible. Perhaps the biggest thing that I realized since the ablation is that the constant distraction of hearing and feeling your heart kind of beat in very erratic and wild manners within my chest has completely silenced. There are only rare occasions now where I kind of feel my heart doing something strange. It is absolutely amazing. One of the things that I've been talking about in these vlogs is the intersection between what I've been going through with my health, the pandemic, racial justice issues right now in the country, but primarily with my health because I'm under kind of like severe coronavirus lockdown because of the doctors. But I got an email today from Fuller Seminary where it was telling the story of an Army chaplain. And I'm going to include that, John Hohenberger, who's serving in the U.S. Army as a chaplain. And he writes that Dr. Mark Laberton, the president of Fuller, inspired me with his writings on being called in the midst of a crisis. To paraphrase, he taught me that to be called means to reverse the crisis by following Christ. In other words, this crisis was to define why I was in Italy at this time, and I realized I needed to reframe my thinking about my role as a spiritual leader. It's how we respond in a crisis that really shows how does Christ dwelling within me now meet the situations in which I'm living. The crisis doesn't define us. It's our faith defining the crisis. The second thing is that I've now had about 7 days of recovery and I am allowed to do some light exercising. So my goal for today is to take a ride on my bike on the trainer here, very, very gently. But look at this, this is so sad. I haven't ridden the bike for so long, the tires have gone flat. The advantage that the trainer has is that I'm not going to be outside on the trails or the road. I'm in my house and I can try it here. So even though I am recovering, I'm just a little shell-shocked and want to test the waters first before I try any sort of epic rides or anything like that. I thought I'd bring you on a short walk today because last week a short walk was challenging. Show you one of my favorite places in the park. So that's where we're headed right now. Brought my acolyte with me. This old tree here, its branches and everything are just a testimony to this struggle for it to survive here. It's just gnarled up, twisty. Even way down here at the base, you can see where there used to be a rock that go around, but the rock is long gone. And also my dog, I don't think, understands the concept of being an acolyte. She's supposed to follow me, but not when she's on the lead. tree always amazes me because it's right in that crack there where the rock slid down. And it always makes me wonder whether the growth of the tree fractured the rock or it was just opportunistic and found a place to grow. The first thing I wanted to share is not so much biblical, but when I did my PhD, I had to study the works of Martin Heidegger. And he's important because he looks at the philosophy of how you interpret or understand something. And he has the example of a German master woodworker who's in his wood workshop and all of his tools are set up there. And Heidegger calls this that the hammer is at hand. But what happens when this guy loses his hammer or it breaks? All of a sudden, he says the hammer is no longer at hand. What was familiar is no longer there. And so the whole idea of what was his hammer like? How broken in was the handle? How worn was it? How had he particularly modified or something like that? All of this stuff rises to the forefront of his attention. Our brains do this great job of filtering out our hearts. We don't hear our heartbeat. You don't feel it beating within your chest. But have that heart rhythm go completely nuts and you feel every single heartbeat. It's all you can think about. So one of the things that my heart issues brought up to me is just how my health or well-being is something that we just take for granted. It's absolutely incredible. N. Ward, in one of his songs, he says that life is amazing. It takes the skin right off his eyes. The same's also true with coronavirus. I don't think many of us realize just how important our social interactions and connections and being in community with others is. But coronavirus has shown us just how desperate we are for that community that we dwell within. Or all the demonstrations concerning racial injustice in the United States. Those demonstrations and disruptions bring to our attention this need because as daily life is disrupted, it forces us to ask and confront questions about racial inequality within the United States. I think one of the reasons why Heidegger's illustration resonates with me is because my great-grandfather was brought over to Philadelphia by the Wanamaker Company as a master furniture maker, woodworker from southern Germany. The other thing that I've been thinking a lot about, the letter of James, he talks about, don't say that you will go to such and such a city and conduct such and such business, but rather you should say, as the Lord wills. And having a heart issue that forced me to stop, oftentimes numerous times during a day, to not know if my day would be a good day or a bad day. It's almost as if he wrote that for me. And it just really struck me how important it is to commit our plans to God and then to trust in His provision and daily life. I actually didn't walk that far. If you look right up over there, that's where I parked. But this is a pretty good day's outing for me right now. So I'm glad you could come out with me on this short little walk in Palmer Park. It's a beautiful park. And if you live here in Colorado Springs, I think you are obligated by God to come hike in this park. Till then, I'll catch you next week.